Welcome to Zarnia for Games and Geekery. I'm Jon.
I'm Adhil.
And this is Bored to be Wild. End of year wrap.
Rapping.
Okay, yeah. That was very white of us.
Rather.
I'm sorry, do you mind?
No.
Okay.
I
think probably the viewers mind. They're like, please don't actually go into a rap.
Yeah, not again.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the things that happened this year was we did a bit of an animal rap, and that was one of the most popular pieces, right? People loved it. And it was one
My mom said it was great.
Yeah, your mom loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure my mom would have loved it too. So that was pretty cool.
Alright, but year in review, Adhil.
Yeah.
There was the pandemic.
Oof.
And you lived through year one of a baby.
Flip, I did. And it had ups and downs, but definitely life-changing. And you're going through it yourself.
Yeah, I have just had a baby. And it's, I'm treading the path that you just trod.
Yeah.
Which you've just trod.
It's been, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
Everything changes. The amount of free time you have changes.
And every time, you're like, yes, I have learned this lesson. Doesn't apply anymore.
Out the window.
Doesn't apply.
Yeah.
That was old baby, now it's new baby.
Exactly, and that was just last week. So, no, things do change all the time with the baby, for sure. So maybe let's talk about some board games. So we've played quite a few games this year.
Do you have the numbers?
I have some numbers for my own. I've been looking at my stats over the last few years, and I've definitely progressively, to the point of changing life priorities, etc. I'm playing fewer games now than I was 4 years ago. Probably a quarter of the number of plays that I was playing 4 years ago. But at the same time, I think we're spending a lot more time playing the same game, because when you're reviewing games, you're having to play something 4 or 5 times rather than just once. So I think we are getting a little bit more depth than we would have a few years ago.
Sometimes, we reviewed a game, I'm going to zoom in particularly on Space for this one, where, it was a fun game. The 4 of us played it a lot. But of all the games I think we've reviewed, it's the one that I've played the most since reviewing.
Yeah.
And I've introduced the most other people to. So shout out to Space for being actually a pretty fun party game, and I don't know.
Space. We also made a really cool little video clip.
Yeah, I actually should not say party game. It's not a party game,
no.
But it is fun for people of kind of mid-casual level.
Yeah,
it can be you can be introduced to it within 30 minutes and be playing.
It was really a highlight for us, right? For all of us, it ticked all the boxes, it was easy to the table, we got it back to the table, and to your point, I think that's a really good testament to the game that you played it after we've reviewed it. You didn't, it's quite easy to just go, I've played it enough now, put it away. But you played it with new people, you taught it to people, and I see that they've even now got it on Board Game Arena, which means you can play it online as well.
What other games do you find that you revisited across the year?
Flip, there are a few, right? And so obviously we don't have a lot of time to play games that we're not reviewing, but Ark Nova was definitely one I kept going back to, and I think that's probably my game of the year. It's one of the only ones that I think we've played that is relatively new, right? So it might not be published in 2022, it might have been published in 2021. But I think that it only really hit stores in 22. So that's definitely my favorite. It's the one I've played the most this year, I think. And there have been a couple of others as well that we've enjoyed. So I did enjoy Golem. I thought that was, as we said in our review, there were lots of aspects to it that were a little bit odd or a little bit heavy or a little bit, it was quite overwhelming, but it was quite an enjoyable one as well.
Yeah, the pressure to learn things fast, I think, is something that's quite difficult in board games, and is, it's been parodied a lot, learning these complicated rule sets and stuff. And that is like one of the fun things of revisiting a game, because you do get like deeper and deeper strategy.
Yeah.
But you really have to have like a little hardcore group of diehard game lovers
You do.
to appreciate these like complicated Euro games. I didn't have that before. One of the things that doing this channel with you is that you're the expert, I'm the noob, but I have now been like introduced to so many like board game aficionados that I have played a lot more complicated games and I'm starting to really like enjoy them.
That's good. I mean, that's a win. I'll take that. But I think to your point also, when you're trying to get more into a hobby, your immediate thought is, can I get everybody around me to also get into my hobby? And that's not always the best, right? So you try to get your family to play a game. You try to get friends. I mean, I remember some years ago trying to convince my friends on like a random Saturday night, or we were away somewhere, I'm trying to get them all to play the Game of Thrones board game. And I mean, this is a massive game that takes lots and lots of time and lots of effort. But it was exactly the wrong choice for me to bring up. You actually need to have another set of friends. A group of friends that are your Euro friends or your Ameritrash friends or whatever. Like, they're different game tastes.
I gotta say, like, your Ameritrash friends doesn't sound like it's games.
It's not a slight on them. It's just a type of game. So I think different groups will play different games, and I don't think that you should be forcing someone to play something that's not for them.
Yeah, they're not going to have a good time. You're not going to have a good time. No one really wins. I mean, apart from you, if they actually finish the game, then you have crushed them.
And they'll never play with you again.
Yeah.
And I think that also goes over, that idea translates into when you're watching a reviewer, knowing what they actually like is so important. Because if someone says Ark Nova is amazing, or if someone says, I hate Ark Nova, it's a horrible game, you need to know what else that person likes and what they play and what's in their top. And this is why I think one of the things we did start doing this year was really great is our 5 faves. It gives viewers an idea of what our tastes are.
Yeah.
And then if that matches with their tastes, then maybe they can go, okay, so he likes, John loves space, maybe I will too.
Yeah, that's very, very much true, I think. I really enjoyed it as well because it forced me to do a little bit more like research on these things that I've been playing, to really like make sure I had all the facts right, and just sort of refamiliarize myself with like the things that are going on.
I found it was a really great walk down memory lane, right? So you sort of go, and you would think that 5 faves would be such an easy thing to come up with lots and lots of topics. Because the world is your oyster. There's like so many things you could go for. But I found it really tough. Like if you start going, what kinds of worker placement games do you want? Or any kind of category that you come up with, I sort of think, well, do I know enough games that could fit 5? Like, what's your favorite Egyptian-themed game or something? I think that you've got to think widely enough, like broadly enough, so that you have enough material in there. So it has been a little tricky, and we also thought slightly differently. So I enjoyed doing the one that Sean Drummond suggested, which was the 5 fave games that you can play with a bit of a buzz. I thought that was such a cool way of looking at it. And we've got some new ones lined up for next year, so I think that'll be really fun.
Yeah, I think, like topics like how to introduce people to the games, which we just said don't do, but actually, you want the casual games to play with the family and stuff. Don't try to bring them to your level, go to their level.
100%. And I've gained more of an appreciation for some of those quicker games. So, when I first started playing, a good sort of decade ago, I was very into the heaviest game I could find. And now my tastes have changed. And so I'm much more into things like dice. I'm much more into a shorter playtime, something that you can get to the table quicker, something that is explainable in a very short time. I really have much more of an appreciation for those now.
Yeah. I'm appreciating the games where you can fit in like 6 to 7 people. It's a nicer social group.
Sure.
You know?
And that's not for everyone as well, right? Some people go like, because in some games, yes, you might be able to play with 5 players or 6 players or whatever, but actually it takes ages before your turn comes around. And not everyone's going to have the patience for that. Some games do it really well. So a game like Captain Sonar, you can play with 8 players, but you're playing in a team and you're all playing simultaneously. So then there's no downtime. You're not waiting for someone to take their turn. So, and if you're playing in teams, then you can do that. One of the games that I really loved was Ricochet Robots, where it's got this wonderful idea that you can play with anything from 1 to infinity number of players, right? So you can play any number of players. And people can just jump out and jump in at any point in the game. So it's a wonderful way of thinking about a game that people can just, anyone can join and you're all competing against each other. So I agree with you. Finding games that work really well at that high player count does lean into the sort of socialness of board games.
If you were to try and break it down, what would you say the aspects of board games are that we should be considering?
That appeal to us, yeah. I mean, I get that question a lot. Why board games? And for me, it is social is number one, right? So this is part of the reason why during the pandemic I didn't really lean into playing online that much. For me, trying to have that social interaction is going to be number one. And I think that there is the tactile nature to the board games as well. So being able to actually throw dice or hold cards, or there's some of that moving cubes around the board. For me, a lot of that tactile nature is important, and the visual appeal of the game, just the board presence that a lot of these games have. And I mean, we're in a golden age of board games. Just the production quality of games. Some of them, I would argue, are overproduced, maybe too much, but certainly the production quality is amazing. Yeah. So for me, those are the kind of 3 things, aesthetics, social, and just being able to have that tactile nature.
I would like to get more into the social deduction games. We played a game called Skulls at one point, which I love. So simple, quick, and all about reading other people. What do you want to get into?
Well, so let's talk about Skulls for a second, because I think that's a fantastic one. If people haven't played that, they really should. And it's an amazing game for playing in a pub or a bar or whatever, because it's a small footprint, a really small box, and you can play with quite a few players. And it's pretty quick. Each round is, each sort of game is pretty quick, and it's not quite social deduction. I mean, there is deduction involved, and it can be quite a social game, but it's not really what they would call social deduction. I mean, I think that the social deduction games are more like hidden role, or if you're trying to work out what role someone is playing. I think that's going to be, that's how those work. It's you're trying to work out who's the mafia, or who's the vampire, or who's the werewolf.
Whereas Skulls, you're trying to work out how do they play their bets.
Correct.
Yeah.
So did someone bluff? So it's more of a bluffing game than a social deduction game. You're trying to deduce if someone bluffed.
See, these terms, that's why I'm a noob, and I always get learning new things.
And no, I didn't make it all up.
I do suspect that you are making them up. Cube pushers, dudes on a map, Ameritrash.
Yeah, well, I wish I was talented enough to make all of these things up.
I think you are. I believe in you. Yeah.
Thanks,
Don't hide your light.
So one of the things we did do this year was Mikhail and I went up to Joburg to the Comic-Con Africa.
Yeah, without me.
Without you.
You went to Comic-Con without me.
However, we are running a whole Comic-Con just for you in April.
What?
In Cape Town.
Really?
So, be there.
Well, to say we're running it, we're not running it. We're just going to it. We're going to run a couple of games there.
We pulled some strings. We got some people to, put it on, especially for you.
Oh, thanks, man. I didn't know that.
So Comic-Con Cape Town is joining forces with FanCon, which I think, we've been to FanCon. Well, I've been to FanCon.
Again, without me.
a few times over the years, and I think it's been a fantastic event. So I'm really looking forward to this new version, which is going to be expanded. It's going to be at the Cape Town Convention Centre, and it's going to be super exciting. And we're going to do some panels and
shoot some videos, shoot some content, host some D&D or other RPGs.
And hopefully teach some people some games, which would be nice.
Yeah. And just meet people. So I think the social side of it, the events that we've gone to, we haven't covered them, but we've gone to like a bunch of board game days hosted by various places, like Solar Pop and Unplug Yourself and various, and they've just been like so fun to meet people, and try things out. I'm looking forward to that actually.
So one of those social events that you were talking about was run by Sword and Board, the store here in Cape Town, and it was called SwordCon. And hopefully they're going to do that again next year, and that it's going to be bigger and better. But it was really great organized play events. They even had the Catan Nationals that was running over those couple of days. And we were there to check out what was going on. We taught some games, we looked around, we looked at the Warhammer stuff, which was pretty fun.
Kind of made me want to dust off my old minis.
Yeah.
But then I'd have to admit how many of them are unpainted.
Well,
20 years later.
I feel like next year maybe they'll have a painting station as well. That could be quite a good one, to bring some of those unpainted minis. I mean, we've all got unpainted minis sitting around, right?
Yeah, that's everyone's secret shame. No one has painted as many minis as they own.
Yeah, that was one of the things that they did at Comic-Con, which I really enjoyed watching, because some of these guys were amazing, the work that they were doing. But they had people that were painting together, and you could see some of the intricate work that they were doing. It was pretty inspiring.
Yeah, just finding people who share your passion is so wonderful, and connecting with them and chatting to them about it. The other event thing that we went to was Dragonfire, which was at UCT, and that was really like the youth.
Yeah.
The youths.
Yes. And that's one I've been to a few times over the years. And, because each year it's run by essentially a new committee, it has a flavor, right? So each year it's slightly different. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that it keeps it fresh. This year they had an interesting cosplay competition. They had quite a few people, as always, it's quite visible. Like there's a lot of tables of people doing D&D or playing board games or whatever it might be. And it seemed to go pretty well this year.
I think that also it's a glimpse at what the next generation of people entering the hobby are, because these are all, they're 18 to 22. They're all at university. They're mostly at university.
Sure.
So how do you think the board game community has changed?
Well, I mean, it's hard to assign that or to sort of think of it as specifically to do.
Yeah, sorry, that was like a huge question.
No, sure. But I think it has changed, and I think that there are more people, more youth nowadays, certainly even than 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was people who could afford to buy a board game, people who were more into it because they grew up with board games or whatever. But I think that the critical mass is now more younger than it was, right? So I think there are a lot more younger people that are playing board games, and board games are actually getting cooler than they were 10 years ago. So I think that does change things. It does mean also that it's leaning into some of those aesthetics that we talked about earlier. I think that games are trying to appeal a bit more to a younger sensibility, different themes that we're starting to see coming out, right? So certainly a lot of the old fantasy themes continue to be evergreens, but you're also seeing very interesting themes like, biology or like something to do with animals, like Art Nova, right? You're making a zoo, or some very cute themes which are much more cartoony, or some that are much more adult. So it's the variety of themes, I think, is what's changed.
Yeah, and the variety and the access to all those different niches and the creators. I suppose when I'm saying when I mentioned the next generation of players, that's not actually what it is. It's the vanguard are the creators from those communities who are a little bit older, who are starting to create the crazier games that they wish they had.
And some of the places where we're starting to see that are these game jams, right? So we met a group called Four Old Men at Comic-Con, and they were wonderful, right? They had won 2 game jams.
How old were these old men?
They were not old, and they were not all men. So they were actually university student girls, and they were wonderful, right? So they showed us some of the games that they'd made in their game jams, and those, that sort of really inspires me. It's to see the kind of themes that they come up with, to see how much you can do in 24 hours or 48 hours.
I love jam culture, because I work in computer games, and the jam culture in Cape Town is just so wonderful and supportive and great. I would love to actually connect with them more, and do some little board games and some physical games as well with them. Yeah, it's wonderful.
And one of the things I love about those sorts of jams, and especially with Book Dash, is not everyone has to be a writer, right? So you need artists, you need people to try your games out on. So playtesters are going to be important. You need all sorts of different skills. So people shouldn't be thinking, I'm not a game maker, or so I can't go to a game jam. Anybody can go to a game jam, right? So if you have ever played a game, and actually even if you have never played a game, you still have a role to play.
Listen, if you've never played a game, you should play a game.
Yes.
This is exactly.
Come to the game jam and play a whole ton.
I would also like to see what someone who's never played a game would come up with. You get all that art, outsider music. I want to see what an outsider board game is.
Yeah. Wow.
I think the thing I'm most grateful for in terms of doing this, in terms of doing Born to Be Wild with you, is that you really broadened my horizons of all the things board games could be. I was not, a complete neophyte, but I didn't have the depths, that you had, and the depths that you've showed me. So I'm really grateful, just to be exposed to not only the people in the communities making games, but just more of the ideas and the games themselves. It's really thanks, man.
Oh well, it's an absolute pleasure. But it's been so good, right? This year and some of last year. I mean, it's been amazing for us. We've had a really great time together. We've enjoyed making these reviews, and for me, seeing the games with different eyes, because you come into it, and for me, I'll be dudes on a map, that's something I know about, right? And you're what is that? What does that mean? And
I know what it means. It's literally dudes on a map.
Sure.
Yeah, I get it, man.
But it's been so great to see that, to see a lot of the things that I've been looking at for years with fresh eyes and fresh enthusiasm. So it's been amazing. It's been a good collaboration.
Yeah, it's been a good time, and I think that's probably a good time to end the segment on a reflection on 2022.
I hope people have enjoyed hearing us ramble on about the year, and I hope that they've enjoyed some of our content this year.
Yeah.
We've tried a bunch of things. Not everything has worked. It would be great to hear from you what you've liked, what you haven't liked. What about 2022 was amazing for you? Did you have any life-changing events? Were there any games that you liked that really stood out for you? Any highlights? Or were there any that you particularly didn't like?
Yeah, what did you hate? Tell us some negativity. Share your negativity in the comments too. Not about us, just about other things. Yeah, I like to do a little gossip and trash talk every now and again. They don't let me do it on this show though. No, John, you gotta
stay positive.
Say something nice or don't say anything at all, unless you're really funny about it. Yeah, that's the one caveat.
You're allowed to be funny.
But I just want to wrap it up also with probably the biggest thank you though to Mikal. You don't often see Mikal, on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
Because he's the one running around making sure that everything happens. You can see his actual face on our D&D campaigns and such. But yeah, he's amazing. He brought you and me together. His idea for this whole show, and I just want to Mikal.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. And and also thank you to our Patreon supporters, Malcolm, Hung, Clive, and Andrew. And if you want to be on that list, 2023 is a time to make that choice. And I think with all that, Adhil,
happy holidays.
And that's a wrap.
More rapping!
Yay! Wrap it up! Woo-hoo! Nice.